Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Table, a conversation focused on veterans and the struggles they face when it's time to take off the uniform and enter the civilian workforce. Roughly 200,000 service members transition out of the military each and every year. Many face daunting challenges in their search for meaningful jobs. Among the hurdles, not having the skills required for jobs changed by evolving technology. Another is difficulty translating their military skills into private sector careers. Now, we've brought together leaders in both business and education working to fix just that. Now, some are veterans, others are not. Our goal is to exchange ideas and answers, all with the goal of finding solutions. Now, we begin with two personal stories.
My name is Jonell Wells, and I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. I joined the military in April 28th, 1999. I didn't know if I could make it or not. I wasn't successful at anything. Quit school, quit football, quit everything. I was an angry kid, period. The way that I was going with my attitude and the decisions I was making in life, I'd be in jail. The Army was my last hope to saving myself. I was a medic for the Scouts first. My next job was the mortar medic. I got to do things that other medics normally don't do. I got to fire mortars. Later on, I got promoted while I was an instructor. I became a Sergeant First Class, and I got my own platoon. My medical skills really helped me out in Iraq. I come running downstairs, and this guy's got a hole in his head. We got the wound wrapped up, and he's still breathing. The training I had helped save his life. I have 20 years of experience in all realms of the medical field, from running a clinic, running an ER, to the basic medical things of drawing blood, giving shots. I have experience in the logistics field. I have experience as a manager. I have experience as a supervisor. The military was a stepping stone for me.
When I first entered the Navy, I was on a destroyer out of Hawaii. I did a lot of maintenance on fire suppression systems, which are just like firefighting systems that you have in the civilian world that firefighters use. I then became the subject matter expert for my shop. My daughter was born September 4th, 2018. Now it's a matter of me transitioning out of the military, and it is both scary and exciting and confusing. This is a new journey for us.
My job today is, I got dad, mom. I wash clothes. I pick up the kids from school. I wash dishes. I cook. I clean. It's a full house. My mom, my stepdad, me, my wife, and my 3 daughters.
When he first graduated from basic training, I told him, I said, I'm so proud that you stuck with this, and it will bring you somewhere. It's just been a battle for him, moving in from military life to civilian life. And what he's expecting is not really what's happening.
Idle hands, it's the devil's workshop, that's real. I feel lost, not embarrassed, not sad. I feel lost, a man with no purpose. That's how I feel.
My job right now is a flights and travel clerk. I also have a collateral as command financial specialist. My main objective is to help retirees and separated people create a budget for getting out of the military, which is exponentially difficult because a lot of them have no idea what their income is going to be. A lot of our skills it's like 50-50. Sometimes they transfer and sometimes they don't. And I know this more than anything after creating budgets for people getting out. It's very hard to articulate the unknown. If I can't stay in California because I don't make enough money, where do I go? Where would I even start to find childcare for my daughter? As a single parent, it's just so hard because it's just me.
Having all the skills that I have and training that I have, and coming out and finding out that you don't qualify to deliver laundry. When I got the reply back, the company says, "Hi there, Cintas wrote back to say that they have chosen to go with a more experienced person." The job was just delivering uniforms. Put on a smiley face and deliver uniforms, pick up uniforms and drop them off. That's it. Why don't I qualify? Why wouldn't they want me? Me, 20-year vet.
I was talking to a few people and asking them to help me write a resume. Almost everything that is being asked is, do you have a degree in mechanical engineering? I didn't learn in a school behind a desk or a computer virtually. I learned on the spot, in the middle of the ocean, this is going down, we might die type deal. I guess my biggest fear for that would just be somebody actually giving me the opportunity to show them that. Because if I'm not given that opportunity, how can I prove myself?
I've worked through the flu. I've worked through pneumonia. I've worked through broken bones. I'll be there. I know I can give back to the communities out there that are looking for the help. We're here. Use us. Stop looking for reasons not to. My intentions were never to be a millionaire behind my next job. It was always about happiness.
We want to feel like what we do is worth something. We want to be happy in what we do. We spent so many years being on the fence and on the brink of happiness and complete destruction. So if they could be patient and give us a chance, it would be greatly appreciated.
I refuse to be unhappy anymore. I want a job that I can give to the company and they can give back to me. That's what I'm looking for.
Very powerful story. Shireen, whom you just met, is on active duty and unable to be here. Now, Janelle is in the audience, and we want to thank him for coming for certain. Carol, I want to start with you. Janelle's story is not unique. What happened to him is happening to so many veterans, and also for Shireen as well. So what should veterans do in this situation? I mean, the two things that we heard, in Shireen's case, we're executing on something while we're thinking we might die. Janelle's case, being out there in the field, administering life-saving medicines and techniques to people, and yet not skilled enough to deliver laundry. I mean, those are just stunning stories.
Yes. Well, first I'd like to thank Janelle for sharing the story. One of the challenges is our civ-mil divide, where our civilian private sector doesn't necessarily understand what the military has experienced. So Janelle, by sharing your story, you've helped us all understand a little bit more. So I certainly want to thank you for doing that. And yes, I don't think it is all that different for many veterans. But there are resources there, and I think that's one of our challenges, and that's why we're all here, is to help share those resources that are available to our veterans and to the private sector to help them understand the military community so we can better be prepared to receive those great veterans, that military talent coming to us.
There are over 43,000 veteran service organizations across the country, 43,000. And right now, if you want a job, if you're a job seeker looking for a job or an employer looking for talent, your tact is let's take one and try, and then fail, and try the next, and the next, and the next. And that's not a successful model. So if you're a job seeker coming out of the military, you have, via the GI Bill and a series of other really, really good laws and incentive programs and some charitable work done by a lot of great companies, access to more training, more certifications, more degrees than I think any other class around the country. I mean, truly, as a class, this group of veterans has more opportunities than maybe any other. Mm-hmm. The challenge they face is once they get out of said class or once they get said certification, they're still facing a challenge of walking in an employment office and then saying, employer, I'd like for you to hire me, and having that same bad decision that we saw at the start. I think we'll all agree that whoever the hiring manager was for that story made a terrible decision.
Yeah. You know, one of the big things that happens, I think, that, or at least our research has shown, is that unfortunately, when veterans come out, for many veterans, you know, for instance, if you went in as an enlisted person, you probably came out of high school and maybe a couple of years worth of work. If you went in as an officer, you came in out of ROTC or out of one of the service academies. And so the military was your first major job. But how do you then translate what you did into the military into the civilian sector? Often the service members don't communicate what their expectations are. The employers are not communicating what their expectations are. And so what our research has found is that overall, veterans sort of retain in jobs at rates higher than non-veterans, with one big caveat: after the first job. Because often that first job is where the veteran is trying to become acclimated to the civilian workforce. So that first job is often one that doesn't really stick. But after that, after they learn those skills, then veterans retain and stay in those jobs at an even higher rate.
Well, I mean, it's not too dissimilar from thinking about college graduates and their first jobs right out of college, right? There's high volatility for many of us in first jobs. That said, right, we're you know, most college universities could do a far better job of embracing veterans from two perspectives, right? One would be recognizing the prior learning that they accomplished in the military. there's a few colleges and universities doing a good job of this, where they've actually gone in and identified the training happening within the military at different levels, right? So you come out and it's knowable what kind of training you went through, and articulating some of that learning into credits, right? So one, we could do a much better job of that. And then two, accepting transfer credits. A lot of military who go through higher education, they'll end up enrolling in 3 different institutions, getting as many as 100 credits, but not accomplishing a degree, right? So these are 2 areas where we need to do a much better job of recognizing transfer credits across institutions for military and recognizing the learning that they've already done. Essentially, taxpayers in the military are paying twice, right? Because they got the training in the military, they have to, which could be articulated into college credit. So they went through the time and energy, and taxpayers paid for that training. Then they go enroll in higher education. They basically have to go through more of that training to get what could have been credits already articulated there. And in some ways, taxpayers are paying again. So the military and taxpayers pay twice in that situation.
Let me just follow up on that. Are accredited institutions accepting those transfer credits in such a way that it becomes meaningful towards, let's say, even just an Associate of Arts degree? Is that happening or no?
Well, look, there are institutions that have really put a strong focus on serving veterans, right, and serving current military. And so that I'm familiar with Purdue Global. It's an institution we work with. This is a simple example. They've gone in and identified the learning. I'll use the Army as an example. Someone comes out of the Army, they know exactly what training they were in, what credits can be articulated towards credits at Purdue Global. You can get your associate's degree in as little as 6 courses. It then stacks towards a bachelor's degree, which you can get in as little as 7 additional courses. And all told, you can get your master's degree, a master's in management and leadership, with as few as 23 courses. So when you focus on it, right, this is first point, this is totally doable for every university in the country. When you put some effort and focus into it, you can help military get through higher education to high value credentials much more quickly and efficiently than we're having most of them go through right now.
You know, so as a veteran, I mean, and this is not this question may sound strange, but you don't always know when you're coming out, right? I mean, you may think about re-enlisting, but then there's that window in which you know you're coming out, and you have to suddenly start thinking about this process. What is that process like of determining, you know, not only what you want to do, but how to prepare yourself on the back end of your military career, however long or short it might be?
So it's so funny to even try, and I'd definitely love to get other thoughts on this too, to give a contrast between what I thought it was and what I know it is now. Yeah. I overestimated my personal network coming out of the service. You know, most of the people I knew best, because I joined at 19, were still in uniform or also coming out themselves. So they had basically the same level of knowledge I did. I was not comfortable walking up to the garrison generals and high-ranking officers and be like, what do you think I need to know when I get out there in the civilian world? I asked my peers. And so that transition, I think, again, as I mentioned earlier, was difficult because I was not comfortable with what the networking responsibilities would be on the civilian side. Knowing more now, I'm obviously aware of resources, but also understand there's so much education that I had to do. So much education about what the pipeline from college to job is, what the pipeline from a 2-year institution, what training in vocational schools and institutions look like, and how they match up with this sort of lifelong learning training we get in the service. Because now, you know, you listen to folks at a lot of credentialing summits, they talk about whether you're left or right of the DD-214, and the DoD is reaching out to nonprofits reaching back to figure out, you know, how do we create synergy here? There's so much good work coming out of it, but it's kind of at the beginning stages for a lot of large companies. And I think as we get better, we can filter that down to small businesses.
And you mentioned networking. We have to give credit to LinkedIn. LinkedIn provides a free premium membership to all post 9/11 veterans and military spouses. And there isn't a greater, larger military community than what we have in LinkedIn. You can search by military, and then you'll reach out to people with that background and say, hey, I need some help. And it's just like being a battle buddy in a combat zone. You've got these people there to help you. So hats off to LinkedIn for providing that. And then they often go to the transition summits and train on how to use LinkedIn and provide free headshots. So that's a pretty cool organization.
There's an interesting point that Fernando made in terms of transitioning, particularly for enlisted, is that I grew up in a small town, and I didn't get exposed to a lot of the jobs that I learned exist in the world until after, basically during graduate school. And I imagine if you're 19 or 17 and you go in and everybody you know is doing the same thing, and you come out and say, now go get a job. You're like, what jobs do I know about? And as in graduate school, I was able to go to all the informations, meet consultants, meet product developers, and find something that resonated with me. And I think we're kind of missing a step here. If you are just coming through the transition, you might not know what the jobs are. You might not know what a factory manager, do you know anybody who did that job before? You probably didn't. Just I wonder if there's a step missing, that we're kind of expecting the veterans to actually know what job they should seek, and the employers know, but you just don't have that vision because, like you said, you didn't know anybody who'd had the job that was available to you.
Let me round this out a little bit, but just by saying, we have seen presidents in the last several decades talk about the country not doing enough for its service folks who come back from the Army. Who is ultimately responsible for helping these individuals make the transition?
Look, I think we're all responsible for helping with this. I mean, and I really mean that. And if you think about all the different sectors of society that can help, obviously most of my familiarity is in the intersection of employers and higher education. And I can just tell you, the good news is there are employers and higher ed institutions that are doing phenomenal work, but they have been very intentional. It's not accidental, right? We intentionally want to set out to make sure that we're doing a good job serving veterans. And when they do, there are very productive pathways. So this is not, we don't have the ideas, there isn't, these are not easy issues to solve, but there are people out there being very, very successful doing it. When I say people, higher ed institutions and employers,
right.
But there are too few that have committed that as an intentional aspect that they're investing in. And I just think we have policy levers and other things that could be real, kind of prods to making sure this happens writ large, not just for a handful of leading institutions
right.
and employers.